We drop immediately into the cold, dark woods. Dr. King Schultz, claiming to be a dentist, intercepts a group of enslaved men to acquire Django, literally the only man who can identify the murderous Brittle brothers. When the captors push back and threaten Schultz, he doesn't even blink. He swiftly shoots one down, leaves the other pinned under a dead horse, and securely frees Django. Just like that, the story takes off.
And Schultz quickly proves just how deadly his authority really is. Riding into a small town, he boldly guns down the town sheriff right in the middle of the street. Crazy, right? Well, when he's surrounded by a furious U.S. Marshal, Schultz calmly surrenders. He declares himself a servant of the court and proves that the so-called sheriff was actually a wanted outlaw. Suddenly, his extreme, abrupt violence is entirely legal.
So what exactly is Schultz's real business? He's a bounty hunter. He lays it out pretty bluntly. Just as the slave trade deals in human lives, a bounty hunter deals in corpses for state-funded rewards. It is a gritty, flesh-for-cash business. Because he desperately needs Django's eyes to spot his next targets, he strikes a deal. He offers Django his freedom and $75, all in exchange for hunting down his former overseers.
That search leads them straight to Big Daddy's sprawling plantation, and it delivers some seriously brutal retribution. Django finally spots the very men who tortured him and his wife. Confronting the man as he prepares to whip another slave, Django delivers this chilling final verdict. "I like the way you die, boy," right before executing him. He takes down the brothers, securing his bargain and, most importantly, his freedom.
That bloody act officially cements their partnership. Surviving a harsh winter, they manage to outsmart this ridiculous bag-wearing vigilante mob and successfully hunt bounties for cash. During this time, Django transforms into an absolute expert marksman. Ultimately, their grueling winter work pays off when they uncover the exact location of Django's wife. She's at a massive, notoriously brutal Mississippi plantation known as Candyland.
Now, learning about his wife changes everything, especially when Schultz hears her name. He relays the famous German legend of Brunhilde, a princess trapped on a mountain of hellfire, waiting for her Siegfried. This completely shifts the narrative. It elevates Django from a freed man seeking a simple rescue into a fearless, mythic hero who literally has to walk through fire to save his wife.
But infiltrating Candyland requires a brilliant three-part heist. Schultz knows they can't simply knock on the door and ask to buy her. Instead, they have to offer to buy the farm, not the horse. The plan is to masquerade as expert buyers infiltrating the horrific Mandingo fighting game. They'll make an irresistible financial offer to earn the vicious owner Calvin Candy's trust and trick him into parting with Brunhilde.
This dangerous ruse kicks off with a super tense arrival at the Cleopatra Club. Django plays a ruthless black slaver to absolute perfection. It's a role that violently alienates the other slaves but deeply captures Candy's attention. When asked his name, Django coldly states, "The D is silent." He leans completely into this uncompromising, icy character to execute their high-stakes plot.
To actually hook Candy's immense greed, Schultz drops an absolutely absurd, blinding offer for a fighter, $12,000. This staggering number is an overwhelming sum meant strictly to cloud Candy's judgment. And it works. Candy admits a fortune like that absolutely commands his attention, and he eagerly invites the duo back to his notorious plantation.
The journey to the plantation establishes the sickening, extreme cruelty of their target. Along the way, they encounter a runaway slave named D'Artagnan, who's begging for mercy. But instead of showing even an ounce of compassion, Candy callously orders the man to be ripped apart by dogs. It's a truly harrowing test, forcing Django and Schultz to watch in absolute agony just to maintain their calculating cover.
Arriving at the big house, we meet Stephen, the head house slave, and his combative nature is immediate. He drops the line, "I miss you like I misses a rock in my shoe." Stephen instantly despises Django's free status and free-riding attitude. He starts observing the duo with intense, dangerous suspicion, stepping up as the razor-sharp watchdog of the entire plantation.
Despite Stephen's watchful eye, Schultz manages to orchestrate a crucial moment with Brunhilde. She's currently suffering brutal punishment inside a stifling metal hotbox. Schultz requests she be pulled from the blistering heat just to entertain him in his native German. What this does is create an agonizingly quiet, completely secret reunion between Django and his wife, right under their captors' noses.
The problem is, this ruse is incredibly fragile. Stephen picks up on the subtle, desperate looks exchanged between Django and Brunhilde at the dinner table, and immediately connects the dots. He pulls Candy into the library and shatters the illusion. They playing your ass for a fool. They here for that girl, he warns, revealing that the $12,000 offer was just one massive distraction.
Armed with the real truth, the power dynamic terrifyingly shifts. Candy returns to the dining room and launches into a completely deranged phrenology speech. He holds up the skull of old Ben to justify his twisted worldview. The suffocating tension builds and builds, finally culminating in an explosive moment where Candy traps Broomhilda, threatening to smash her head in with a hammer unless Schultz and Django drop the act entirely.
With a literal gun to Broomhilda's head, Candy successfully extorts the duo. That massive $12,000 figure comes back, but the context has changed entirely. Candy forces Schultz to pay this ridiculous sum not for a prized fighter, but solely to save Broomhilda's life. He essentially weaponizes the brutal, inescapable laws of the South to completely trap them.
But the crucial narrative beat here is the devastating aftermath. Even after the money is paid, Candy smugly demands that Schultz shake his hand to finalize the deal. Deeply repulsed by the monster standing in front of him, Schultz hits his absolute breaking point. Uttering simply, "I'm sorry, I couldn't resist," Schultz pulls a concealed Derringer, shoots Candy dead, and is immediately killed himself. The resulting chaos is just an absolute bloodbath. Django instantly draws his weapons, fighting off a wave of plantation guards in a furious, close-quarters gunfight that completely destroys the big house. He fights with mythic skill, but when a gun is held directly to Broomhilda's head, he has no choice. He is forced to surrender his weapons to save his wife.
Django's punishment is a grim sentence designed to be significantly worse than a quick execution. Sold to the LeQuint Dickey Mining Company, he is condemned to swing a sledgehammer until his back gives out, destined to be worked to death and discarded in a hole. Chained up, he's sent away into the blistering heat with a group of Australian slavers.
But Django is exceptional. Locked in a cage on a moving wagon, he spots a way out using an $11,500 bounty. He brilliantly manipulates his new captors by baiting them with the massive reward on the Smitty Bacall gang. He completely convinces the greedy slavers that these highly wanted men are sitting completely unaware back at Candyland.
His manipulation works flawlessly. Once they unshackle him and hand over a loaded revolver, Django's triumphant realization takes over. I ain't no goddamn slave. Do I sound like a fucking slave? He instantly turns the tables, guns down his captors, secures his absolute freedom, and steals their dynamite. Now, he's setting his sights straight back on Candyland.
The story rapidly accelerates toward its climax. Django rides back to the plantation and systematically eliminates the trackers who had previously hunted slaves for sick sport. With brutal, calculated efficiency, he takes out his enemies in the dark and finally frees Broomhilda. He ensures she's safely out of the crossfire before he settles the remaining scores. Back in the blood-stained big house, Django emerges from the shadows for the ultimate confrontation. He outsmarts the vicious overseer, Billy Crash, with deadly math. I count 6 shots, I count 2 guns. He easily dispatches him and corners the treacherous Steven, making it unequivocally clear that Candyland's reign of terror is permanently over.
Django leaves his ultimate mark as the absolute 1 in 10,000. In an explosive finale, he lights the stolen dynamite he carefully planted throughout the mansion. He blows up the big house, completely obliterating the heart of Candyland, and watches the fire consume the empire before turning his horse to ride away into the night with his wife.
And that brings us to the lingering, smoldering ashes of Candyland. What is the legacy left behind by the fastest gun in the South? We're left to step back and ponder the bloody, triumphant legend Django has forged. He defied every brutal, odd, and vicious institution to emerge as a mythical, truly exceptional hero.